I'm in my very stylish togs today, and I'm having a look at taking the other wing off the Lanchester now that we've dealt with one side. First thing I wanted to do though was have a quick look at the outriggers properly, now that I've actually got some time and some decent light to do that, and see what I'm dealing with. And it's not great. I've got some work ahead of me, but it's also not the end of the world because of where they are and what they do. So as you'll have seen in a previous video, this corner is basically finished now. There's a few bits and pieces I need to do, but the bulk of it is done. Great, super. When I jacked the car up, this point collapsed, and I've gone through with my hammer and my pokey tool, and I've found out that the entire side of this needs replacing. It's gone very, very thin, and dug out quite a bit of rubbish from the outrigger itself. The bigger issue on this side is it's got a great big hole in it, but where I thought this was totally separate from the spring mount, it looks like they do sort of share the same mounting point. Now, I've had a poke at this end, and this actually seems quite solid, so I'm not too concerned. It seems the rot starts about here and goes out to the end. And what seems to have caused it is I noticed on all of these, this bit here was bent up and split, and it looks like when the original post jack was used, it's gone into the outrigger like it should do, and as it's lifted the car, it's put too much stress on here, and that's caused this to start to crack, and presumably that's then put a weak point all the way down. There's also no end caps on here, looks like there hasn't been for a while, and the drain holes on the underside under here were completely plugged with mud. All of these factors combined, these look like they've rotted from the inside out, which is why I didn't see quite how bad they really were. It is repairable, but this might be a job I give to somebody else. It's a heavier gauge steel than I work with usually, and I don't think I've got the tools to build these. But this is the same as a lot of pickup trucks, so hopefully somebody with some decent knowledge of that sort of work can actually knock a new set of outriggers up for us without too much trouble. The front one on the passenger side here is really bad. Now again, this isn't structural. This is what you would use to jack the car up with if you didn't want to use the chassis, and therefore I'm not as concerned about this as I might be. This doesn't bolt to the body, it doesn't bolt to the sill up here. This just goes onto the chassis itself for you to put a jack in the end. So I'm keeping this fairly low on the priority list. I will clean them out to stop them getting any worse than they are as much as I can, but I do think we're going to have to make new ones and fit them. I did consider pulling them off, but I don't know. I think if they were made new and stronger, they'll probably work quite well. On the driver's side, things aren't so bad. It has back here blistered out and gone weak, and you can see how the top of it is kind of cracked and lifted, and that's from the post jack pushing on that and it being a weak point. There's a hole there, but not a lot came out of this one. The rear one this side, also not terrible. It has an ancient repair on it here, which is mostly just solid rust now, but even the repair is cracking at the top. So this is obviously a design problem that the car's had for a long time. And I mean the chassis itself seems perfectly fine. I can't find any damage on the chassis. It's just these outriggers, and they do get everything. Like as you drive down the road, these will just be collecting everything that hits them. Slightly better look at how the spring hanger works here. So this is your leaf spring, and this is the piece, the bracket that the eye with the bush bolts to, and then that bolts to this bracket, which is welded to the chassis, and the outrigger goes onto this bracket and onto the chassis. So I assume the outrigger will offer some extra support for that spring, But I also think if I chopped the outriggers off here and just did away with them completely, it wouldn't cause any issues, really. It would just get rid of the damage. I'm probably going to have to do that anyway, just to put the sill back, because a lot of it is rotten. It looks like this is probably the worst area on the car for collecting dirt and damage. But it's all fixable, so I'm not too worried. And we'll get a better look at some of this when we get this wing off. Great camera work today. Hope you're enjoying that. I'm going to try and not get in the way of the camera for this one. But these are the fixings that I had to cut through on the other side because they were rusty blobs. This one still looks like a fixing. I'm not bothering with the one at the bottom of the wing here because it actually goes into nothing. What was on the other side has rotted away. But this one still has a decent head on it. I've given everything a dose of WD-40 and it's turning just. So the way I was taught to do a stiff fixing like this is you undo it until you feel resistance and then you tighten it up again. It's not a magic cure, but it does prevent the heads from shearing off. So fingers crossed. Well, look at that. Ah, that would be why. For some reason, that is a wood screw. I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be a wood screw. I'm pretty sure that should be a fine thread bolt. Keep going and I'll see how many more I can get out. I can't record this because there's not a great deal of space in here, but I shall bring you back when I've got everything out. There's also, and you may have already spotted it, a nasty surprise in here, so I have a little bit more work than I was expecting. This side went a lot smoother than the other side, possibly because I know what I'm doing on this side. Splash guard came off in 2 pieces instead of 1. Somebody's been in at this corner. It's been walloped quite hard at some point in the past, quite a long time ago. And yeah, somebody sort of pulled things around to get it back to something like. I've already had this off, so I know what to expect. So let's get it off for the camera. Generally speaking, this is in much better shape than the other side, and I have a lot less work to do, which is great. It's not perfect, but then I wasn't expecting that. This is actually solid back here at the moment. That might hole when I clean it back, I don't know. There's a bit here to repair which I knew about, and a bit here which I didn't, but it's not serious. There's another tiny bit up here. This is much the same as the other side of the car. Obviously, we're missing the end of the sill. Again, same as the other side, just needs rebuilding. And there's a hole here which I did know about, but I wasn't sure the extent of. I think that's probably going to be quite a large area when I actually repair it. Other than that, this all looks pretty good. I'm going to clean it all off and see exactly what we're dealing with and come back to it. This is the old wing piping. I'd been calling it windlace, but it's actually wing piping. I think this one's a replacement though, because on the other side it's a coarser grain than this. It's not as smooth, and this just feels like a slightly more modern material. Like on the other side, it's all falling apart, so we will be replacing that. A little bit of aluminium corrosion, as to be expected, and I had to grind off all of the bolt heads because as soon as I tried to turn them, they just disintegrated. But this is where things get less happy. Yeah, the woodworm we had in the plywood has got into the frame on this side. I can't dismantle this car to fix that. But this is a very fresh infestation. There's signs that this has only just happened about the same time scale as the plywood pieces, and it only goes so far round. It seems to stop about here. So it's just this section here, which is next to where we had it inside the car. Also, this part of the car here, where the wood is, it's only the exposed section. There's like a narrow strip here that's untreated between the inner arch and the wing, and that's the only place they are. So I'm going to treat this with the woodworm treater, and hopefully that will be enough to arrest any further development, because I simply don't have the means to dismantle this car and rebuild the frame. I just have to hope it's enough. It should be. It's not like it's absolutely riddled. This is very, very minor, and we've caught it very, very early. Next job, take this off, clean everything up, and yeah, do our best to get more of these studs out. Well, it's cleaning up alright. This is the first pass with the flat disc. I'm going to go over it again with the wire wheel just to get it out of the pitted sections. It gave me one more surprise, which is just up here, a tiny bit of rot. So I shall have to chisel that out and put a new piece in, unfortunately. I'm going to get some wood hardener and some other treatments just to go over the bits of exposed frame I can see, just to give it the best chance. Like I say, I don't have the tools or experience or means to go really in depth on a frame restoration here, and that was never the goal anyway. The goal was always get it as solid as we can and just save it from being scrapped. But yeah, there's if you wanted to restore this car, you'd have to spend more money on it than it's realistically worth. So it's a case of picking your battles. There is at the back here this, and I'm not really sure what it is. When it came to us, there was nothing on it. I suspect this might be for like a fog light or a reversing light, maybe, because there's just a random assortment of blocks and things here that don't look right. So that'll be coming off, and all of this mud that's in here will get cleaned out while I've got good access. But I mean, the repairs aren't terrible. I've got a little bit here, a little bit up here, a little bit here. It's a lot better than the other side. I don't have sections of the bottom edge here to do. That's all nice and solid. It is really just these lower corners. So I'm quite pleased about that. Now then, what I haven't shown you is the wing. So this is the wing that has come off, and let's take this around the other side of the car because the light's terrible here. It's not much better. Oh well. Right, so this is the wing off the back, and mostly it's in pretty good shape. There's the remains of the sill and a bolt there that needs to come out. So that doesn't seem to have affected the wing, that just seems to be the bits of the sill that are trapped in there. There's a bit of a kink here. This wing has been clobbered before, you can see these lines, and there's a dent there as well. Not too worried about that. On the trailing edge, most of the metal's still there and still in good shape. And the same's true for all along the top edge. So this is the hidden section of the wing. So this can all be cleaned up and will go again, no problem. Where it gets a bit odd is on back, because you have this little return here, and then you've got the wire frame of the wing, but then the return is completely missing, and that gives you strength and rigidity to the wing, and I need that for a future plan, which I'll tell you about another day. So although this wing doesn't have as much rust damage, somebody's chopped the entire lip off, and I wonder if when this wing was bashed that was done to make it clear the wheel so they could move it. But it's certainly given me a bit of work. straightened out this bit here, but I'm having a new problem, which is it's opened a gap up at the top there, and I think that's because of this big dent here is pulling the wing slightly out of shape. So I'm going to do my best to get this out and see if that corrects that gap at the top there. I'm encountering all sorts of new dust doing this job. It's great. I've got the inner arch all done. So this is all flat wheeled to get the bulk of it off, wire wheeled to get out as much as I can from the crevices. It looks very brown on camera. I'm not going to dig in all the way, because if I dig in to every single one of these pits, I'll just go through the metal eventually. You have to know when to stop. This area has a few more holes in it than I was expecting, so I'm going to have to cut out a larger panel there. That's okay. And the same on here where the splash guard goes, it's just a little bit more holed. One little one there, same as the other side. But that's it, that's all the surprises really. That hasn't got any worse than it was, so that's fine. And to let the dust settle on that job before I put the rust treater on, I've moved on to the next job, which is to chip out anything that was soft, anything that was sawdusty. I've already evicted a couple of woodworms which were still in there, which, remember, they're beetles, they're not worms. But yeah, and then I've gone over it with a brass brush just to take out anything that's loose and make sure that the woodworm treater can deal with this, because you need to have nothing on the surface. The rot that's up here, that's more water damage than woodworm damage. And what I'm probably going to do with this section is chip some of it out and put a repair piece in there, or some wood epoxy. I've not decided. None of this is particularly deep. Bear in mind, these sections are about yay thick, and I'm dealing with maybe that thickness at worst. So there's still a lot of structural integrity there. I've just got to treat the problem that we have at the moment. One thing I realised to finish dealing with the problems on the other side of the car is I need to remove this screw and this screw here, because they hold in the armrest. Which, okay, that's how they do it, and that's where your little ashtrays are. Once you've got those off, these then lift up and out of the car, providing everything is good. Obviously, the heads just turned into dust as soon as I put a screwdriver near them, so I had to grind them off on this side. And I wouldn't have stood a chance anyway, because this one in the bottom I can't even get to move, and it's just a wood screw into plywood. But what I have noticed is these little cocoons everywhere. Now, there were some quite large ones in the boot lid when I redid that, but I'm finding in this corner, where there's all the woodwork problem there, quite a lot of these that are vacant, and I wonder if these are the furniture beetles, more commonly known as woodworm, that's actually causing a problem. So it is quite sensible to get this out. What's interesting is this, which is made mostly of plywood and leather, has no woodworm damage in it at all. But it is right next to this area here. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to get this out. On the back of these, so this sits in the car like that, you've got this slot, and that goes onto a nubbin just there, which is again another flathead screw. I am not touching that, it is fine where it is. It can stay fine where it is. I'm going to bash these flat again. Looks like somebody may have tried to take these off before, because they were dimpled in. And it means I can get all of this cleaned up, all of these bugs and things down here dealt with, and I can get this trim off so I can weld that bit of floor. Now, that bit of floor isn't the body mount. Body mount is back here, and that section looks nice and solid. This bit seems to have gone through because the closing plate on the sill has rotted away and all the muck's been thrown up and rotted this out from underneath the car. Since this is all steel, just with some fabric and carpet on, I should be able to strip all this back and repair that fairly easily, all being well. It's just every job I'm finding on here to do is uncovering 4 more jobs that I need to do, and it's just making the job bigger and bigger, and there's not a lot I can do about it. I either do it right and do it once, or bodge it and have problems later on. Well, that put up quite a fight. This side was worse than the other, predictably, and now I have some more repair work to do on this side, annoyingly. But we've got the 2 screws out, which were terminally stuck, and now I gave this a bit of a wiggle and off it comes. See a little bracket there with the slot on it, and yeah, happily no sign of any woodworm on here, although another one of those little mystery cocoons. And down in here there's, well, I don't know what that is, stuff, and the leather that covers the wheel arch inside the car. So I shall peel this off. I didn't have to peel this off for the repairs that I did on the inner arch, because we didn't come into that apart from one little one down there. But I'm going to peel this off to keep it safe now, and then do all of the work I need to do in here and put it safe. Next job is to remove this trim, the carpeting. It has a Rexine edge where it meets the seat, and the carpet comes round and just kicks here to cover between the interior and the bodywork on the outside. Now the glue on this is probably hide glue, I would expect, for this period, and it's not got much glue left to it now. I'm very carefully teasing the edges because I don't want to damage any of this as much as I can avoid it. There we go. The important reason for getting this off is so I can do the welding repairs without setting it on fire. Yeah, and you can see it's barely even glued on anymore. But that's good, that makes my life easier. I've already unpeeled the driver's side, so we're just going to work our way across until all of it is unstuck. And there we go. This now means areas like this down here I can weld safely. The draft excluder, we're going to be replacing all of this, but I will be able to take that out the way, and I can just get in and do these little steel repairs down here. I can also clean everything out, so I can clean out whatever this is. I can clean out all of these bug cocoons in here. I can get all the metal cleaned up. I can treat any wood that I can see, and then it's as good as I can make it without dismantling the body shell off the car, which obviously we don't want to do. Slowly, I am winning. I've got battery on charge again. All that needs to be painted in here I've hit with the wire brush. It's been vacuumed 3 times. Not going crazy on the inner arches because these are all going to be covered up anyway, so I've just knocked the flaky stuff off on both sides, and I'll just treat all of this and just get it, you know, base level clean, and then I can get some actual top coat on it. I'm going to use a brush on paint for this because all of this area just is never seen, so I don't need to worry about using aerosols in a confined space. It's not any fun, so brush on will be perfectly fine in here, and sort of in keeping. We are ready for some more woodworm treatment on here. It's soaked it up very quickly, which is kind of alarming, but It has helped to explain one thing with the car. I think this might have been a longer standing issue than any of us realised, and I think the woodworm issue has sort of been here, because when we first did these door cards, now these are completely new plywood on these door cards, this one did have some historic woodworm damage. It wasn't active anymore, and it was only in the plywood. It hadn't gotten into anything else. We did look, we couldn't find anything at all, and it was fine for a couple of years until very recently. Obviously the woodworms popped up, but the car has always had this crack here, and this is where this aluminium panel meets this aluminium panel, and this door has always had sort of an issue with shutting. So considering that we've had woodworm here before and we've got it again, and there's a little bit of rot in the top of here, the rear window has signs of the seal not working properly, so we think the rear window's been leaking. And putting it all together, what we think's happened, seals failed on the rear window, it's got into some of the wood, which has let a bit of rot in, let the woodworms in, and then munch fest. But we are now fixing it, so that's what matters. We're getting there. Second coat of woodworm treater has gone on. It's a bit darker when you put it on, it dries quite light. And I've dealt with the areas where I had to grind away for the armrest screws. I am getting a bit tired at the moment, so I'm stumbling over my words. I have got all of this wire brushed down, so all the loose stuff's off, and all the surfaces then prepped well enough for what we're doing, and covered in rust treater. You can see where I started is already going black, and the rest of it just needs time to dry. And as with the other side, I've just touched in here and given this some more woodworm killer as well. I can't see any woodworm damage or presence on this side of the car at all, but it makes sense to put it on anyway, because it will prevent the stuff from moving around the car, hopefully. I can't see any other exposed wooden frame of the car to treat, so what I've treated is hopefully going to have to be enough. I'm going to have a break and a bit of a tidy up while this all dries, and we'll see if we've got enough daylight left today to put some top coats on this. Little bit of paint progress update for you. This is doing its thing and drying out nicely. I shan't get this painted today. The paint I need to use needs too long to dry, so we'll do that next time I have everything out. I've got the last coat of woodworm treater I can get on today, so again we'll do another coat next time I'm out, and we've got that all in primer, and I've gone very light where I'm going to be cutting it out because that's not as important. The idea here, as I mentioned when I did the last repair work, is that I have to work outside, so I don't know for definite when I'll get back to it, so I need to give it a bit more protection than if I was working in a workshop. One piece I forgot to mention was the splash guard from the driver's side. The bracket on this wasn't even attached. It looks like they've become detached at some point. I am in two minds still about remaking these or repairing these. They're very simple, and I'm very tempted to just get a company to cut me some in stainless steel and do it that way, because then I wouldn't have the rust issue. But we'll see. Maybe cost will stop me. I mean, this is no expense spent after all. This is almost finished drying. It's done its rust converting magic, so I'm very happy with how that's looking. And then tomorrow, if the weather's lovely, I can spend a day just brush painting this and making it all nice again, or nice enough. Now I know I've not done the welding repairs on this corner, so I won't paint that bit until that's done, but if I get the bulk of it done, it just makes things a bit easier for putting everything together, because that area just won't need as long to dry as the whole thing. Speaking of things drying, we've got the final coat of paint on the inner arch. Where it's a bit thin over here is where the welding repairs are going to be, so I didn't go crazy. And the same just up here where the wooden frame is, because I want to put one more treatment on there before I seal everything up. And I'm really hoping that this solves the problem that we've got and it doesn't come back. I mean, at some point it would be nice to get somebody who knows what they're doing to take all of this out here and rebuild it for us with nice new pieces, but that's beyond my skill set and my ability. Unfortunately, I'd have to learn a whole new thing. I can't see me doing it. But I've got out as much of the soft stuff as I can. There's 2 lots of treatment on there. I did evict some bugs that were still living in there, and I'm feeling a bit more confident about getting this repaired. There are all kinds of products on the market these days that make these kind of jobs a bit easier. So we should be okay. Inside the car, I've got a hole here to weld up, but this should be nice and easy because this is a flat piece, and this is a flat piece, and this is a flat piece, and everything behind it is flat pieces. It's very straightforward, which I'm very pleased about. Obviously this will get cleaned up a little bit before the carpet goes back on, but I'm not going to do the carpeting back on here until everything's all sorted. I do have, where are we? Have one little boo-boo I made, which was when I was chopping a bolt off because it got stuck in the captive nut. So I need to just buzz that one, and of course I've got to dress these holes for the armrest properly. And where the back seat goes, I haven't done anything this side with the rust treater because I need somewhere to put stuff while that side is curing. So I'll do this side once all that side's finished. I wish I had a really nice workshop and lots of space. I really do, because this is it's a frustrating way of doing this kind of work. Well, this is a look. But you know what? I don't care. If I'm working doing this kind of job, I'm going to get mucky and grubby, and I don't want to spoil my nice clothes with good reason. So it's good to have your overalls and stuff. Anyway, this has been a bit of a mammoth task, and it feels a bit like I've taken a few steps backwards on the project, because up until discovering the woodworm, I wasn't planning on dealing with any of this until much later, after we'd finished getting all the engine running nicely, sorting the brakes out, finishing the wiring, that sort of thing. Sometimes you get thrown a job that jumps the queue, and this one was more important. Left unchecked, the woodworm would have destroyed parts of the car that I don't have the skills, the money, or the will to repair. I don't enjoy woodwork. It's not something I'm fond of, and this is specialised woodwork on this. I can do the repairs that are needed, that's within my ability, but I don't want to be stripping the body shell off and rebuilding the frame and that sort of business. If it comes to that, it'll go to somebody else to do that work for us. I am done for today. I'm happy with the progress I've made. I'm doing this for fun, it's my day off, so I don't want to push myself too hard. Next time, I'm hoping to get the boot in its final coat of paint, and I might do this welding on the corner, because then I can get all of the boot back together, and it would be nice to draw a line under some of it and be able to put it away, because at the moment, yeah, it's taking up too much space. As soon as you start pulling a car apart, it suddenly starts taking up an awful lot more space than one car. So it's not ideal. I don't have the space for that sort of thing.